I was 3 drinks in when someone yelled my name over the music, Sylas, and shoved a shot glass into my hand. I downed it without asking what it was. Didn't matter. Everything tasted like fire after midnight anyway. People said I was a wild one. They weren't wrong. Son of a presidential candidate, heir to an empire built on lies, blah, blah, blah. Everyone expected me to smile for photos, play the dutiful son, and never embarrass daddy on camera. But once the speeches were over, I was free to burn however I liked. So yeah, I was reckless. I laughed too loud, danced with strangers I'd forget, kissed someone in a corner just to prove I could. Phones probably caught it. Tomorrow, some blog would call me a spoiled brat wasting taxpayer money at the club. Let them. At least they'd be talking about me, not the boring bastard giving speeches about family values. By 3 a.m., the crowd had thinned. My friends had already vanished, trailing off after whatever warm bodies had caught their eye. I stumbled outside, jacket half off my shoulder, cigarette pack in hand. The night air hit cold, the kind of chill that reminded me I was still alive. A sleek black car pulled up. Familiar shape. Tinted windows. My driver, right on time. I slid in without thinking. Take me home, Carlos. And make it fast. My head's gonna explode. The door shut behind me with a heavy click. The lock slid down. I blinked, trying to focus through the haze of alcohol. The air inside smelled wrong. Leather, dust, something sharp I couldn't place. Carlos. The driver didn't answer. A voice from the back seat cut through the fog, low and steady. You're not going home tonight, Sylas. My pulse stuttered. I turned my head. Someone was sitting beside me. Hood pulled up, face in shadow, but I could feel the weight of his gaze. I smirked because fear always came out sideways in me. Well, damn. And here I thought I was the one picking up strangers tonight. There was no word from him. And slowly exhaustion slipped into my mind, and the last though I had before I became unconscious was, damn, I've just been kidnapped. Hey Daydreamers, thanks for tuning in. If you're liking this story so far, tell us where you're listening from in the comment section and hit the subscribe and notification buttons so you don't miss any story uploads. Let's continue. When I woke up, it was to my wrist bound in front of me, not tight enough to cut circulation, but firm. Same with my ankles. A dull headache pressed behind my eyes, alcohol mixing with something heavier, chloroform. I was sitting on a narrow bed in a room that smelled of mildew and dust. A single lamp cast shadows against cracked walls, the kind of place no Instagram filter could fix. Then the door creaked open. My kidnapper stepped in, like a shadow pulling itself upright. Tall, broad shoulders under a dark hoodie, hood down now. His face caught the lamplight. Handsome, sharp cheekbones, a jaw like a blade, dark eyes that studied me with clinical calm. Like, seriously, he looks too good to be a kidnapper. That's not fair. I'm a sucker for good looks. I swallowed, smirking before I could stop it. So, not Carlos, then? He didn't answer. He just pulled a chair from the corner, set it in front of me, and sat down like we were about to have a job interview. My pulse skipped, but my mouth was always faster than my brain. Okay, mystery man, ropes are a bit much. I'm usually into dinner and a movie first. Maybe candles. His gaze didn't flicker. You're not here for fun. Well, damn. And here I thought you were whisking me away for a romantic getaway. I leaned back against the wall, letting my grin widen. Guess I should be flattered you went to all this trouble for me. Nothing. Not even a twitch. I tilted my head, studying him. Mid-30s, maybe. Hard edges carved into his face like he'd forgotten how to smile. He didn't fidget, didn't blink much, just sat there soaking me in, cataloging details. You've got the whole strong, silent thing going, I went on. But here's the thing. I can talk for both of us. I've been told I'm excellent company. Some even say charming. He stood suddenly, chair scraping back. For a second, I thought he might hit me. Instead, he walked to the door, hand on the knob. I'll bring you food, he said, voice clipped. Don't waste your energy. The door shut behind him with a heavy click. I leaned back against the wall, ropes biting into my wrists, heart pounding. Well, this was new, and I had no idea if I was terrified or thrilled. Time's strange when you're locked in a room. For cracked walls, a narrow bed, and a door that never stayed open long enough to glimpse what lay beyond. My kidnapper wasn't the type to shout or hit. No, He was maddening differently. Quiet. Controlled. Like every move had been calculated 10 times over. He came in with food twice a day, sandwiches, reheated soup, and once a bag of takeout that almost smelled like kindness. He'd set the tray down, check the ropes on my wrists and ankles, and then retreat to the chair in the corner. Arms folded, eyes on me like I was some problem he had to solve. He wasn't giving me the reason why he kidnapped me, so I did the only thing I could do to fill the silence. I talked. By day 3, I was launching into a story about the time I nearly burned down my prep school science lab. I rated every nightclub in the city out loud, complete with drink recommendations. In the evening, I made up elaborate fake biographies for him. "You look like a Lucian," I said once, chewing on stale bread. Or maybe a Dante. Definitely a brooding name. Tragic backstory. Lost love. Sworn vengeance. Am I close? He didn't answer, just raised an eyebrow. "Fine, keep your secrets," I said with a grin. "But I'm telling you, you've got that dark romance novel cover model vibe. Don't think I didn't notice. I know this game wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about finding every crack in his walls, peeling him back piece by piece, until I understood what kind of man would kidnap the useless son of a politician and then just sit here every day, watching, listening, not hurting him. And damn, I have to find a way out of this." Through sheer persistence, I finally had a name for my kidnapper. Ezrin. That's all he gave me. He wasn't cruel, didn't starve me, didn't threaten me. He just kept me. He'd sit in that corner chair, arms folded, jaw set, while I talked myself in circles, trying to get a rise out of him. "Do you ever smile?" I asked on day 4, poking at the gray bread he called dinner. "Is your face even capable? Or did you trade that ability in when you joined the Kidnappers Guild?" Nothing. Not even a twitch. I leaned back on the bed, arms spread dramatically. "Fine, don't answer. But if you're auditioning for the role of strong, silent brooder, congratulations. You nailed it. Women love that shit. Men too. Lucky for you. I'm an equal opportunity admirer." His gaze flicked to me, sharp and unreadable. "You talk too much." "Wrong. I talk just enough. Imagine this room without me." I gestured at the bare walls. "Dead. Lifeless. Boring. Admit it. Ezrin, you'd miss me if I shut up." The corner of his mouth twitched. Barely. But it was there. My pulse leapt. Victory. So I leaned into it, flirted, teased, needled. I watched for tiny cracks. The way his eyes narrowed when I joked about politicians. The way his jaw clenched when I mentioned my father. The rare flicker of humor when I went over the top. "You know," I said one afternoon, sprawled across the bed like I owned the place, "if this is your idea of a honeymoon, it's pretty underwhelming. Not even a minibar." "I told you," he said evenly, "you're not here for fun." "Yeah, but you never said you're not having fun. Don't tell me you're not at least a little entertained." He studied me for a long moment. Then, quietly, "You fill the room with noise." "Exactly," I grinned. "Keeps lively." The silence stretched, heavy. Then, so soft I almost missed it, he muttered, "Maybe." My chest tightened. I pretended to yawn. Knew it. I grow on people. Like mold. That earned the smallest, quietest laugh. Barely a breath, but it was there. By day 6, I was losing my mind. Not from fear, though, yeah, there was plenty of that simmering under the surface, but from the silence. It stretched, pressed, and made every thought louder, until you couldn't outrun them. Why me? I pushed, seizing the moment. Out of all the people in this godforsaken city, why pick me? He was silent for a while before he finally answered. "Because of your father's debts." My suspicion was confirmed. Of course. It always circled back to him. So I talked some more. "Want to hear a story, Calder?" I asked, picking at the crust of the bread he'd dumped on my tray. "No?" "Great. I'll tell it anyway." He didn't look up from the corner chair. "Once upon a time, there was this kid whose dad was supposed to be Superman. You know, perfect guy, family man, savior of the people. Only at home? Not so much. At home, he treated his kid like a resumed bullet point." Ezrin's jaw ticked, just slightly. "Don't get me wrong," I went on, forcing cheer into my voice. "I wasn't starved or beaten or locked in a cupboard under the stairs. Nothing that dramatic. But try living with someone who only looks at you when there's a camera around, who only calls you son when the microphones are on. It's a different kind of starvation." I tore off a chunk of bread and tossed it back on the tray. My throat felt dry. Anyway, this kid grew up loud. Reckless. Because if the old man wasn't going to see him, the world damn well would. So he drank too much, slept around, picked fights, smiled too big for the cameras. You see where I'm going with this? Ezrin finally spoke, voice even. You're talking about yourself. I grinned, though my chest ached. Congratulations, Sherlock. You cracked the case. Silence again. But he was listening. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. You said I'm here because of my father's debts. Fine. But let's be real. He's not going to pay them. He doesn't even pay attention. So what's the end game? You keep me here until he cracks? You think Adrien Armand loses sleep over his screw-up son? Ezrin's eyes flicked to mine, a flash of something raw, gone before I could catch it. I don't need him to lose sleep, he said quietly. I need him to lose everything. The words dropped heavy. I swallowed, covering the sting in my chest with a smirk. So I'm just a hammer, huh? The pretty pawn you swing at Daddy's glass house. His silence was enough of an answer. I should have been furious. Should have screamed, fought, reminded him I wasn't a pawn. But the truth? I've been a pawn my whole life. At least Ezrin was honest about it. I flopped back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Well, Ezrin, if I'm the hammer, I hope you've got good aim. Because I'm sick of being dead weight. For a moment, I swore I saw something shift in his expression. Not pity, not contempt, something else. But then he blinked, and it was gone. By day 7, Ezrin had finally loosened the ropes. After I complained enough, I casually mentioned that I was into S&M and the bondage was making me horny. If he wasn't going to help me out, he might as well take them off. He looked at me with disgust, but then hurried to untie me. I laughed at the blush creeping onto his cheeks. Seriously, there's no way this was his first kidnapping. My father had probably done something so terrible to him that it turned a guy like him into this. Now, instead of fear, I just felt pity for him. That night, Ezrin stormed in and slammed the door so hard it rattled me out of my boredom. He was fuming, moving like a storm bottled inside flesh. His hands shook as he pulled a burner phone from his pocket and slammed it on the table. I raised an eyebrow. Bad day at the office? His eyes cut to mine, sharp as knives. I spoke to your father. My smirk faltered. Oh, Ezrin's voice was raw, disbelief leaking through. I told him you were alive, that I had you. Do you know what that bastard said? I tilted my head. Surprise me. He said, keep him. Whatever your demands are, it doesn't matter. Keep him until after the elections. Ezrin's fists clenched. He didn't even ask if you were hurt. He just wanted the problem contained. A bitter laugh escaped me. Yeah, that sounds about right. Ezrin's eyes widened, disbelief mixing with fury. That doesn't, you're not. He stopped, dragging a hand down his face. His body was trembling with rage. He grabbed the phone, shoving it toward me. The screen showed my father on a podium, clutching a microphone, eyes wet with camera-ready tears. My son, Sylas, he was saying, voice breaking just right, has been cruelly taken from us. I beg his captors, please return him. I will not rest until he is safe. I will do everything for my only son. He means so much to me. The crowd roared, flashes burst, people shouting hero and father of the nation. Ezrin's hand clenched around the phone until the plastic creaked. I leaned back against the wall, sighing. So he's at it again. Ezrin's head snapped toward me, his eyes sharp. That doesn't bother you? I shrugged. Why would it? He's always better at crying for strangers than actually seeing me. He's probably already using my disappearance to boost his approval ratings. Watch. Next week, there'll be campaign posters with my face and a sad slogan. Bring Sylas home. Ezrin's fury boiled over. He shot up from the chair, pacing the room like a caged animal, his fists clenched, his voice low and ragged. He's such a two-faced bastard. People like him shouldn't be allowed to rule this country. He would use his own son like that. I tilted my head. You sound surprised. Ezrin whirled on me, eyes blazing. No, I've seen it before. Men like him destroy lives and smile for the cameras. They step on anyone, families, children, anyone, if it keeps their hands clean in public. His chest heaved. For once, I didn't crack a joke. I just watched him, heart thudding in my chest, because beneath all the rage, I saw the pain. What did he do to you? I asked quietly. Ezrin froze. The question hung in the air like smoke. Finally, he sank back into the chair, dragging a hand through his hair. His shoulders hunched, as if the weight of something years deep crushed him. He spoke quietly. 2 years ago, we were in intelligence, tracking an arms deal, dirty weapons routed through civilian zones. Your father signed off on it. He knew the risks. He knew the convoy would cross a residential block, and he didn't care. The deal went bad. Crossfire. My team was trapped. My friend, he didn't make it out. Ezrin's jaw clenched. And your father smiled for the cameras the next day like nothing happened. He turned the whole thing upside down and made my team the traitors. The survivors? Discharged. We lost our jobs. My stomach sank. Not surprise, confirmation. I'd always known my father wasn't a good man. Always suspected the shady dealings. But hearing it like this, from someone whose life had been torn apart by him, it hit differently. Ezrin leaned back, staring at the ceiling. When I investigated, it turned out he didn't just sign off on it. He was the mastermind. So when I saw him climbing higher, smiling through fake tears while the country cheered, I decided he needed to be stopped. And the only way to stop him was to take what he cared about most. I barked a laugh before I could stop myself. Ezrin's eyes snapped to mine sharp. "You've got it wrong," I said, shaking my head. "He doesn't care about me. Not really. He cares about how I make him look. You kidnapped a prop, Ezrin, not a son." For a second, there was only silence. Then Ezrin whispered, almost to himself, "That makes him worse." Something twisted in my chest. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, quieter now. Ezrin's gaze locked on mine, steady but fierce. "Because you're not like him. I thought you were, but you're not. You don't flinch from the truth. You don't wear a mask when no one's watching. You." He stopped himself, jaw tightening. My pulse skittered. What? His silence was answer enough. Ezrin stood abruptly and crossed the door. His voice was flat again, the mask slipping back into place. "Get some sleep." By day 7, Ezrin had fallen back into his usual routine. He dropped the tray, sat in the chair, arms folded, standard procedure. But when his eyes met mine, the weight behind them was different. "Less guard dog, more man." "So," I said, poking at the pasta he brought, "you gonna mope all week, or do I have to carry the emotional labor for both of us?" Ezrin's brow twitched. "You never stop, do you?" "Nope." I popped a piece of bread in my mouth. "I'm like Netflix. Endless streaming." For once, instead of rolling his eyes, his mouth tugged, just slightly, at the corner. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. "Wait, did you smile? Oh my God. Stop the presses." Ezrin Calder has human emotions. "Eat your food." But his voice wasn't sharp this time. It was warm, or maybe I was imagining it. I chewed slowly, watching him. Then, softer, "Your friend. What was his name?" Ezrin's shoulders stiffened. For a second, I thought he'd shut me down. But then, almost reluctantly, "Mateo." I nodded. He must have been important. "The way you said his name." He didn't respond, letting the silence stretch between us. I leaned back on the bed, hands behind my head. "You know, I had a best friend once. Back when I was 12. We built forts out of campaign posters. Swore we'd run away and live on the beach someday. Then Dad found out, sent him to a private school across the country. Said he was a distraction." My chest tightened. Haven't spoken since. Ezrin's gaze lingered on me, unreadable. "Guess we both lost someone," I said, lightening the mood, hiding the sting. "The difference is, you fight back. I just drink." Ezrin's jaw clenched. "You fight in your own way." I blinked. Compliments weren't exactly his thing. "You hide," he continued, voice low. "But hiding takes strength. You protect yourself from him." Something hot stung behind my eyes, and I laughed to shake it off. "Careful, Calder. You keep talking like that, I might think you're falling for me." Ezrin didn't look away this time. He just held my gaze steady, dark, searching. And my heart, traitorous bastard, skipped. I sprawled on the bed, legs dangling over the side, watching him from under my lashes. "So what now, Calder? You keep me here until I rot? Until the world gets bored with my dad's crocodile tears?" He didn't look up from his chair. "I can't let you go." I smirked. "Why not?" "Afraid I'll ruin your dark and brooding image by tweeting about my glamorous kidnapping experience." His jaw tightened. "Because I don't trust you." That hit harder than I expected. I sat up, brows arched. "Don't trust me?" "Calder, in case you missed it, I'm the one locked up in your shitty Airbnb safe house." His eyes flashed, finally snapping to mine. "You say you hate him. You say you're not like him. But I've seen it before. I've seen sons grow into their father shadows. I've seen people swear they're different, until power calls their name." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Power? Please. The only thing my father ever gave me was silence. If you unlocked that door right now, I wouldn't take a single step toward him, because I've already spent my whole life running away from him." Ezrin stared at me, breathing hard. But as he left the door unlocked without a second thought. I tried to cover it with a grin. "What's this?" Upgrading me from hostage to house guest. His eyes flicked to mine. "Stay inside. he said simply. Don't test me. But I took full advantage of that. The house was small, probably once a vacation spot before time, and neglect hollowed it out. The paint peeled in strips, and the kitchen tiles had cracked with age. The living room held a sagging couch, dust in the corners, but it wasn't filthy. Ezrin kept it tidy, like he needed order to fight the chaos inside him. I wandered, testing the boundaries. My footsteps echoed too loudly on the wood floors. Ezrin followed, always watching, leaning against door frames. His presence was constant, like gravity. You know, I said, opening every cabinet in the kitchen just to hear the hinges squeak. For a kidnapper, your interior design skills are lacking. Ever thought about throw pillows? Plants? Maybe one of those cheesy wooden signs that says live, laugh, love? Ezrin didn't flinch. You'd break a plant in a week. I turned, mouth falling open. Wait, did you just, holy shit. You actually picture me with a plant. His mouth twitched, a ghost of smirk before he shook his head. And I swear my stupid heart skipped. Again. That night, I sprawled on the couch, staring at the rain streaking the windows. It started as a drizzle but quickly built into a storm, the kind that shakes its fists at the earth. Ezrin sat in the chair opposite, sifting through papers I wasn't allowed to see. His presence filled the room, even in silence. Maybe especially then. I cracked a joke because silence gnawed at me. So honestly, what's the plan, Calder? Keep me here until I start sprouting Stockholm Syndrome? Because I gotta tell you, that's a short road. His gaze lifted, steady, unreadable. You're restless. I grinned. I'm always restless. But I didn't push harder. Not that night. Because the storm outside was gaining strength, and I could see Ezrin stiffening with every rumble of thunder. It started small. His jaw is tightening. His hands paused mid-movement. His breath was hitching almost imperceptibly. I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't been staring at him like he was the only movie playing in the room. Then the storm cracked open. Thunder boomed, shaking the windows, rattling the floor. Ezrin flinched so hard that the papers slid from his hands. Ezrin! I sat up, voice sharper than I intended. He didn't answer. His fists clenched. His breath came fast, shallow. His eyes locked somewhere far away, dark and glassy. He pressed his palms to his ears, shoulders trembling as another roll of thunder crashed overhead. The man who had been stone and silence, unbreakable walls and hard lines, was unraveling. Seeing him like this gutted me. Hey, I said softly, crossing the room. My voice came out rough, stripped of its usual humor. It's just a storm. You're here. You're safe. He flinched when I touched his arm. For a second, I thought he'd shove me away. But instead, his body sagged like something inside him gave out. I guided him to the couch. He sat stiffly, muscles locked, chest heaving with each uneven breath. His eyes darted toward the window, then away, like he couldn't bear to look. Talk to me, I murmured, crouching in front of him. Don't let it drag you back. Stay here, with me. His gaze snapped to mine, raw and unguarded. And in that moment, I saw the scar across his jaw, the hollowness carved into his eyes, the man buried beneath all the armor. It was raining, he whispered hoarsely. The night Matteo died. The convoy. The crossfire. It was raining. His fists trembled. Every storm drags me back. My throat ached. You're not there, I said, voice steady. You're here. It's me and you. Just the storm. Just noise. Nothing else. He closed his eyes, a shudder tearing through him. Without thinking, I reached for his hand. His fingers twitched under mine, then stilled. He didn't pull away. We sat like that, the thunder rolling, the rain hammering the roof. My thumb brushed over his knuckles, slow, steady. A tether, a reminder. And God help me, something inside me shifted. It wasn't just empathy. It wasn't just pity. It was wanting to hold him, to strip the fear from his chest, to kiss the storm from his mouth. But I didn't. I just stayed there, hand against his, with a painful realization that my father had caused this, and I wondered how many more lives he had shattered in his greedy attempt to climb to the top. Hours later, the storm finally quieted. Ezrin had fallen asleep on the couch, head tilted back, his face softer than I'd ever seen it. I sat beside him, wide awake, listening to the drip of rain against the windows. I could have thought about escape, timing, doors, distance to town. I could have been plotting. But instead, I was angry at my father at the injustice he'd caused, and I resolved to atone for his sins against Ezrin. A new plan started to form in my head. But before I could even get there, a sick part of me wanted to crack Ezrin's shell further, get under his skin. So when morning came after the storm, I caught him at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of black coffee like it had personally offended him. I noticed he was more rigid, like he'd locked himself back up, double-bolted every door inside him. I was even more determined to crack it. "Morning, sunshine," I said, sauntering in. I reached past him to grab a mug, letting my arm brush his deliberately. "Sleep well? No thunder to tuck you in this time." His jaw clenched. "Eat your breakfast." I grinned, dropping into the chair across from him. Translation: "Thanks for keeping me from spiraling into a PTSD nightmare. Sylas, I really appreciate it." "Don't." His voice was low, sharp, but his eyes didn't meet mine, and that told me more than words. He was embarrassed. Ashamed, maybe. Like breaking in front of me made him weak. I leaned back, sipping the bitter coffee. "Relax, Calder. I'm not going to tell anyone. Your secret's safe. Scout's honor." I held up 3 fingers. "Okay, maybe not Scout, but you get the point." His mouth twitched. By midday, I claimed the couch as mine, feet propped on the armrest, stretched out like a king in his borrowed castle. Ezrin stood nearby, sorting through papers again, the eternal watchdog. "You know," I said, twirling a pen I'd swiped from the counter, "for a kidnapper, you're weirdly domestic. Coffee, paperwork, silent brooding. You're basically a disappointed dad." He gave me a look. "You test limits like it's a sport." I smirked. "And you let me." "Which is interesting." Ezrin's eyes flicked to mine, sharp but fleeting. "Careful, Sylas." "What?" I sprawled wider, pen tapping against my lips. "You're afraid I might start thinking you like having me around?" Silence. Heavy. Telling. I stood, sauntering toward him, stopped just close enough that our shoulders almost brushed. His breath hitched, barely audible, but I caught it. "God, you're tense," I murmured. "You always this wound up? Or is it just me?" His hand stilled on the papers. His jaw worked. "Stop." I leaned in slightly, lower my voice. "What if I don't want to?" For a heartbeat, the air burned between us. His eyes finally lifted, locking on mine, dark and conflicted. And for the first time, I saw it, the attraction he fought so hard to bury. It jolted through me, hot and sharp. For a second, God, for a second, I thought he might kiss me. His gaze dipped, just barely, to my mouth. My heart hammered, skin buzzing with anticipation. Then, he tore himself away, turning sharply toward the door. "Don't play with fire, Sylas." The door slammed behind him, the echo lingering in the silence. I leaned back against the counter, grinning despite the ache in my chest. "Too late," I murmured. "I've already lit the match." A few hours later, I padded down the hall barefoot after a shower, hair damp, steam still clinging to my skin. He was in the living room when I emerged, leaning against the wall like a sculpture carved out of shadows, arms folded across his chest. His eyes flicked up, then quickly away. "Relax," I said, dragging the towel across my hair. Droplets splattered onto the floorboards. Not like I had any razor blades hidden in the soap dish. "You leave puddles," he muttered, gaze still averted. "God, you're fussy." I grinned, dropping onto the couch without bothering with clothes beyond the loose sweatpants I'd found. "What are you, my warden or my mother?" He finally looked at me, jaw tight. His gaze skimmed over my chest before snapping back up. I smirked. "Caught you staring, Calder." His nostrils flared. "You think everything's a game." "Not everything." I stretched languidly, muscles loose, damp hair brushing my shoulders. "But you make resisting temptation way too fun." His silence was heavy. He turned toward the kitchen, hands braced on the counter, as if putting distance between us might douse whatever had sparked in the air. It didn't. I followed, padding across the floor, towel slung around my neck. "You know, 10 days in, and I think I finally figured you out." He didn't turn. "Do I want to hear this?" "Probably not." I leaned against the counter beside him, deliberately close. Close enough that the heat of his body brushed mine. "You pretend you're made of steel. But underneath, you're just as restless as I am." His jaw flexed. "You're wrong." "Am I?" I tilted my head, studying him. The scar on his jaw caught the dim light, a reminder of the violence in him. But his eyes, God, his eyes betrayed him. Heat flickered there, unbidden. I lowered my voice. "Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you don't think about it when I touch you, when I look at you." His breath hitched, almost imperceptible. I stepped closer, chest brushing his arm, my damp hair nearly touching his shoulder. "I'm losing my mind here, Calder. No booze, no parties, no distractions. Just me. And you. You have no idea how pent up I am." His throat worked as he swallowed hard. His knuckles whitened where they gripped the counter. "You should stop," he said hoarsely. I leaned in, lips brushing the edge of his jaw. "And if I don't, That must have gotten him because he spun suddenly, pressing me back against the counter. His hands gripped my shoulders firmly, like he was holding himself together by force. His face hovered inches from mine, breath ragged. You don't understand what you're doing. I met his gaze head on, pulse racing. Oh, I understand perfectly. For a long, burning moment, neither of us moved. Then, like a snapped thread, he crushed his mouth against mine. It wasn't gentle. All the tension that had coiled between us detonated at once. His lips were rough, desperate, like he hated himself for needing me, but couldn't stop. I gasped against him, fingers tangling in his shirt, dragging him closer. My body answered his without hesitation, heat sparking everywhere we touched. Ezrin growled low in his throat, a sound that vibrated through my chest and deepened the kiss. His hand slid to the back of my neck, anchoring me like if he let go, I'd vanish. I nipped his bottom lip, laughing breathlessly. See? Not so untouchable after all. He pulled back just enough to glare, eyes blazing. You're infuriating, and you're terrible at resisting me. I grinned, drunk on adrenaline and the taste of him. His hands tightened on me, not pushing away. His whole body trembled with the force of what he was holding back. I pressed my forehead to his, voice soft now. Stop pretending you don't want this. Because I do. I want you, Ezrin. The room went still. His breath ghosted against my lips, uneven. Finally, he whispered, I don't deserve this. The words punched a hole straight through me. I cupped his jaw, forcing him to look at me. Maybe not, but you deserve something. Something that isn't pain. And if I have to be the one to give it, then I will. His eyes flickered, searching mine, as if he was trying to find a lie. But there wasn't one. Not this time. When he kissed me again, slower this time, it felt like surrender. Not to me, but to himself. I kissed him back, pouring every ounce of defiance, want, and reckless empathy into it. His lips deepened against mine, pulling me closer until there was no space between us. His hands slid down my back, gripping me as if he needed to drown out whatever he was fighting. I let him. I let myself get lost in him, his lips, his body, the heat between us. Every kiss burned away something, breaking down walls I never thought would crack. His breath came faster, mingling with mine, every brush of his tongue an electric shock. I couldn't help but respond, kissing him harder, meeting his need with my own. His fingers tangled in my hair, pulling me closer as if we could disappear into each other. I felt the tension in his body, the fight, the restraint, and then the inevitable surrender. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, I leaned against the counter, grinning. For someone who says, don't play with fire, you're pretty good at striking matches. Ezrin shook his head, but the corner of his mouth curved. The faintest, tiniest smile. And that was all it took. I knew, right then, that I'd help him, that I'd find a way to pull him out of the shadows, out of this endless war he was waging with the past, even if it meant burning everything else down. After a kiss like that, after the fire we'd set alight in the dark kitchen, I half expected him to vanish in his silence again, like he always did, to run from the wreckage of his own desire. Instead, Ezrin found me in the living room the next morning, standing there with his jaw tight, hands fisted at his sides, and said the last words I ever thought I'd hear. You can go. I blinked from where I lounged on the couch. What? You heard me. His voice was flat, clipped. There's no point keeping you here anymore. My chest went cold, then hot. I sat up, frowning. What the hell does that mean? Yesterday you were. Yesterday was a mistake. He turned away, shoulders rigid. None of this matters. Mateo's gone. Your father's still untouchable. Keeping you won't change that. I stood sharply, heart hammering. So that's it? You just give up? After everything, you're just going to roll over and let him keep winning? His silence was answer enough. Anger surged hot in my veins. I crossed the room, planting myself in front of him. God, you're pathetic. You spent years holding on to this, planning, fighting, and now, when you finally have something, someone, you just fold. His eyes snapped to mine, burning. Mateo would be so fucking disappointed, I said before I could stop myself. The next moment, I was pinned to the wall hard. Ezrin's hand fisted in my shirt, his forearm pressing across my chest, his face inches from mine. His fury radiated off him like heat. Don't you dare, he snarled, voice low and dangerous. Don't you dare mention his name. You know nothing about him. My breath caught. My pulse skittered wildly. I should have been afraid. Maybe I was. But mostly, I was furious right back. Why not? I spat. You think Mateo wanted this? You think he died so you could waste away in some shitty house, crying to thunder and pretending you're already dead? He'd hate you for this. He'd hate what you've become. His grip tightened. For a heartbeat, I thought he might hit me. My back pressed harder into the wall, my heart slamming in my chest. But then something shifted. His anger cracked, just for a second, and underneath it was raw grief. I softened, lowering my voice. You're right. I didn't know him, but I know what it's like to live under someone else's shadow, to feel powerless. And I know giving up isn't what he'd want for you. His chest heaved, his breath ragged. I lifted my chin, meeting his eyes. So let me help you. His hand loosened slowly on my shirt, but he didn't step back. Help me. His voice was rough, disbelieving. Yes. I swallowed, pulse still racing. You've been playing alone for too long. You want to bring him down? Then stop shutting me out. Use me. Ezrin finally pushed back, retreating half a step. He raked a hand through his hair, tension etched into every line of his body. You don't understand. I've got evidence. Records, videos. But even if I get them out, your father controls everything. The media, the police. They'll bury it before it breathes. I exhaled, almost laughing at the irony. You really didn't do your research on me, did you? He frowned. I sighed, rubbing the back of my neck. My father never wanted me anywhere near his work. He thought I was too reckless, too stupid. But the truth is, I'm better at it than he ever was. I had to hide it. Pretend I was just the playboy's son, the headline embarrassment. But hacking? Information? That's me. Ezrin stared, like I'd just grown his second head. You? Yes, me. I crossed my arms. Why do you think I got into so much shit at school? You don't accidentally crack into government servers on a dare. I learned to bury it, because if my father found out, he'd use me the way he used my mother. And I wasn't about to let that happen. The air between us pulsed with silence. His eyes searched mine, suspicion warring with something else. Say, I believe you, he said finally. How does that help? Simple. I stepped closer, steady. You have evidence. I have the skills to get it out where he can't touch it. Leak it wide. International press, whistleblower sites, encrypted drops. If it's everywhere, he can't bury it. Not even him. Ezrin shook his head slowly, disbelief flickering across his face. You'd really do that? Against your own father? I gave a bitter laugh. He stopped being my father the moment he decided I was nothing but a prop. He made his choice a long time ago. Now I'm making mine. Something in his expression cracked. Hope? Fear? Maybe both. He whispered, you'd risk everything. I leaned in, holding his gaze. I already have. Haven't you noticed? For the first time since I've been dragged into this house, Ezrin sat with me, not as captor and captive, but as equals. We spread the papers across the table, photos, documents, records, all stained by years of secrecy. His hands trembled faintly as he laid out hard drives and flash sticks like weapons. This is it, he murmured. Payments. Orders. Proof of the raid. Everything they covered up. I pulled the laptop toward me, fingers itching. Let's make it sing. Ezrin watched me, silent and wary, but something had changed his eyes. Trust. A thrill shot through me. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about burning down the empire that had caged us both. The plan unfolded like a storm we couldn't stop. I cracked open servers my father thought were untouchable, slipping past firewalls like they were tissue paper. Each keystroke was a nail in his coffin. Ezrin hovered nearby, handing me drives and papers, his presence steadying me. I wasn't doing this alone. Once the files hit encrypted drops, international media, and whistleblower networks, it was over. No pulling them back. The first headline broke within hours. Explosive corruption allegations rock Armand campaign. By the end of the day, the leaks multiplied. Every time my father's team tried to plug a hole, 3 more bursts of truth ripped through the dam. He went on television, his face smeared with false sorrow. It's lies, he cried, the grieving father routine in full display. But the leaks kept coming, timed like clockwork. I'd built it that way. And God, it was intoxicating. The backlash was nuclear. My father's allies scattered like roaches under light. His poll numbers tanked. Protesters swarmed his campaign offices, chanting his name like a curse. He shouted on every media outlet that it was lies, slander, and sabotage. But I programmed the leaks carefully. Each time he denied, another wave dropped, time-stamped undeniable. By the 3rd day, even his inner circle was fleeing. By the 5th, the warrants came. And by the 7th, my father, Adrian Armand, the untouchable kingmaker, was led away in handcuffs, cameras flashing, his empire crumbling behind him. Ezrin's old team, the ones branded as traitors, were reinstated. Justice had teeth again. When the news broke, Ezrin stood rigid in the living room, watching the screen, his eyes stormy. I slipped beside him, leaning on the armrest. Satisfied, he didn't answer right away. His jaw worked, breath uneven. Finally, he said, "I don't know." I frowned. "You won. He's finished. Isn't this what you wanted?" "Yes." He scrubbed a hand over his face, shoulders tight. "But it doesn't bring Mateo back. It doesn't erase the years. I thought victory would feel like something else. Bigger. Cleaner." I touched his arm gently. "Justice isn't clean, Calder. It's messy. Ugly. But you did it. You gave it back his name." For the first time, his eyes softened, looking at me like he wasn't sure I was real. Then, quietly, "I owe you everything." My chest tightened, a smile tugging at my lips. "Guess that means you owe me a favor, huh?" He huffed a laugh. "If you ever need help, Sylas, you tell me." "Anything." I smirked, leaning closer. "Anything. Yes." "Good." My grin widened wicked, because I can't get that night out of my head. You know, the one where you finally kissed me instead of glaring at me like I'd stolen your last bullet. Ezrin's breath hitched. Before he could retreat, I swung a leg over, straddling his lap. His eyes went wide, hands instinctively gripping my hips. "See?" I teased, leaning in, lips brushing his ear. "That's one favor you could pay back right now." "Sylas," he warned, voice low, dangerous. I grinned, lowering my mouth close to his. "What?" "Afraid you'll lose control this time." Before he could respond, I kissed him. This time, it wasn't fury or desperation. It was heat, simmering and slow, building like the hum of an engine beneath us. His lips were rough, but yielding, his hands sliding on my back, gripping tight like he couldn't decide if he wanted to pull me closer or push me away. He didn't push me away. I deepened the kiss, tongue brushing his, a groan slipping from my throat. The tension of weeks of near misses and restrained touches exploded between us. The weight of it, the pull, was undeniable. My body instinctively pressed closer, the heat of him igniting something inside me, and he groaned low against my lips. "God, you drive me insane," he muttered. "Good." I panted, kissing him harder. That was the plan all along. His hands tightened on my hips, anchoring me. The kiss turned filthy, desperate, teeth and heat, and the taste of everything we'd been holding back. I could feel him, every inch of him pressing into me, like he wanted to be swallowed whole, and I did too. My hands roamed over him, pulling him closer, needing him, and he met every movement with the same fire. There was no more restraint, no more hesitation. The world outside vanished. It was just us, tangled in an abandoned house, riding the high of destruction and rebirth. The end. Thanks for listening to this story. If you enjoy this story, share your enthusiasm in the comment section, and don't forget to hit the subscribe and notification buttons so you don't miss any story uploads. See you in the next one.